So this video is the Locust side of my Overrun strategy guide. I'm going to be looking at some general principles, some unit-by-unit breakdowns, and then I really want to focus on the principle of critical mass and point management and how to set up a winning push as your Locust team. So first off, let's look at some basic principles for playing as the Locust. Just as the key for the cog is denying the Locust points so they cannot achieve those high-level monsters, the key for the Locust is managing your points so that you have all those monsters unlocked at the same time, and you can put together a team which reaches critical mass and can't be stopped. So one thing to constantly keep in mind as you're playing is the relative value of the unit that you're using, whether or not it's okay to go kamikaze on the enemy team. Kamikaze tickers are great, that's what they're for, and they're also free. Kamikaze corpsers are moronic. So a common thing which strikes Locusts whenever they get enough points to unlock a better monster is they immediately want to try it. And then all that wonderful monstrous power goes to their head, and they go charge him and the cog team trying to wreak havoc, but unfortunately immediately die, because even the best monster, when focused on by the cog, will go down quickly without proper support. So I think that the goal for the Locust team should be to waste no points. Tier 1 units are expendable. The Tier 2 units, you need to keep them alive, and that way you will achieve the monster concentration as fastest, and that in turn will translate into a fast attack time. So I'll give my plan for how to do that as soon as I go through the individual unit breakdowns. Of course, tickers are your basic assault weapons. They're great against barriers, very fast, but of course very fragile. One thing to remember when you're playing as a ticker is that if you are shot, you will not explode, so your explosives will be wasted. So knowing when to suicide is pretty key when you're a ticker. And of course for tickers, the ticker tunnels are super key. Also, being patient when you're a ticker really pays off. If you, especially after the first push, sort of sit back, assess where the cog team is and who they're shooting at, and then make your dart whenever they're looking at somebody else, and you'll be able to get much further and do a lot more damage. The Wretch's main advantage is that it is incredibly mobile. It can jump over any barriers and climb into the scout perches. So this allows it to sneak into the cog position through routes which other units cannot use, and often you can get completely behind them and set off the alarm trigger on the E-hole, and serve as an excellent distraction. And of course the Wretch Scream is another really powerful support tool. The best way I use it, I found, is to sort of lurk, wait until some cogs are fighting maybe a Grenadier, then dart in, perform the scream, and then that lets the Grenadier just work among them and get some nice bodies while they have their hands over their head. Right, so of course your Grenadier is the backbone of any Locust team. He's got the Lancer, he's got the Gnasher, he's got a grenade, and we understand how to use that kind of unit type based off of our previous Gears experience. You basically play him like you would normal Gears multiplayer, and be aware that he's really useful for popping engineers as they're stuck on barriers trying to repair, and just one of the best all-around units in the game. And also, if your grenade is respawned, pushing the left bumper when you're down will make you martyr. So that's a great tool for either taking out cogs that are going for the execution like idiots, or else, like once I was down fighting around the E-hole, was suicided, was able to pop it open. The Canis is the super glue and duct tape of the Locust team. He's not useful by himself as a pushing unit, but he's really useful for holding the entire Locust team together. Once you get to the higher levels, you should always have a Canis to keep your heavies alive. And you need to remember that the Canis is pretty fragile, so stay behind your maulers, use cover well, and just keep that healing pouring in. If you are following several units all at once, you will chain heal, so you can chain heal 3 of your buddies at once. Really powerful. So the Rager is the first Tier 2 unit you can unlock. He costs 1500 points, and is equipped with a breach shot, which is a very powerful sniper rifle. Has a fire rate right about a Bulldog pistol and has a one-shot headshot on most COG units. I think the Soldier's a little bit tougher, so it doesn't pop in with one hit. And of course the Rage ability, he moves very quickly, and his melee attack is insane. But you need to remember to have the fences down before you rage. A Rager that charges into a fence is a worthless unit. You'll just die and throw away your cash. The Cerapede's next. He costs 2400 points. And we all know how to play the Cerapede from Beast. Basically protect your butt. Works great in tandem with a Mauler. working into the cog position with the mauler next to you so that they can't attack your tail very as easily. And of course you can rear up and do a spit attack to keep the cog at bay, or knock them down across from cover. The mauler is one of the more expensive units. He costs 3,500 points, and it's really important to keep him alive. You're probably all pretty familiar how to play the mauler from Beast. The one wrinkle the new mauler has is that he can spin his shield, which if he runs into a cog will grind him up, and also reflects the bullets of the cog shoot at it back at the cog. And of course the mauler works really good if he has a Canis healing him, and if he's got someone to protect his flanks so people don't work around behind him. Corpser is the most expensive unit. He costs 5,000 points. So if you're playing as a Corpser, you really need to make it a priority to stay alive. And it shouldn't be that hard because the Corpser has the Burrow Underground ability. When you're taking heavy damage, you can crawl underneath the ground and heal down there. Just be in mind that when you come up, you'll have already used your ability. So if you come up in a bad spot, you'll be screwed. You won't be able to escape again unless you have some Canis healing or something like that. So I'll unveil my master plan of how I would approach a Overrun game from the Locust perspective here. Just like the cog in the opening screen, the initial countdown is a great time to do your organization and planning. And you can see from this map here that the Locusts have 2 routes which they can use to approach a generator. And so you really need to be organized on who's going where right the moment that timer stops, because usually the takers are fast enough they can get to the first fences before the cog can get to their defensive positions, and you'll have some free fences to tear down. So in the opening taker rush, while it's definitely good to have overload one side with units so that you destroy more of the fences on one side faster, you don't want to all be clustered up because that's just asking to get murdered by a turret. So I would definitely have some hit the first fence, some hit the first ticker tunnels, and so hopefully the cog will be confused about which tickers are where, and maybe have one ticker go the opposite direction and see if the horde will distract the cog to where he can chew away some fences easily. And of course, after the initial rush, you sort of want to follow the pattern of the grenadiers distracting the cog, driving them off with grenades, and then the tickers rushing in when the cog are distracted to do their damage on the barriers. So the way the game is set up, the first E-hole is the easiest to take, the second is more difficult, and the generator is the most difficult of all. So you really should be able to take the first E-hole without breaking out any of your heavy monsters. The tier 1 units work just fine for it, and they're free. So that first wave is a great opportunity to destroy all the fences you can and mass all the points you can, so that in the second round you can break out the heavies. So I found that it seems like once a certain level of Locusts get together and are working well in a group, and have a certain level of high-level monsters, the cog just cannot stop them. When this happens, I like to say the Locust team has reached critical mass, and like a nuclear reaction, when it goes critical, it just sustains itself and just rolls right through the cog. On our playtest, the team which managed to do that was a Rager, 2 Maulers, a Grenadier, and a Canis. And that group is incredibly powerful because the Maulers act as a front wall. They march up on the cog positions, and the Canis keeps them healed. The Grenadier is great for driving off cog with explosives and keeping people off the Mauler's flank. And then the Rager can keep all their heads down, and if they try to machine gun too long, he pops their heads. And then once the barriers are down, he can rage in, murder a bunch of cog, cause mayhem, they all turn towards him, and that lets the Maulers move up to the next set of barriers and work deeper into position. A really powerful combo. So at the end of the first round, the beginning of the second round, when you start setting up his team, your best sniper needs to become a Rager as soon as he has enough points and keep himself alive so he doesn't waste those points. Then as soon as you have 2 guys hit the 3,500 point threshold, they need to let the team know that they're going to become Maulers next life. They can be a little more aggressive, charge out there, do some damage and die, and then they come back together as Maulers. Hopefully you already have a Grenadier and a Canis in your makeup. Then you have your team set up, and then you just march in on the barriers. In my experience, this team just carves right through the cog position, and that if you communicate well together, they can't take you out. You'll just work right through them. So if you do lose one of your members, like if you lose one of your Maulers, and he doesn't have enough points to buy it back in as a Mauler, he needs to be a Canis, and then the next Canis or Grenadier who dies becomes the Mauler who fills in, and so you can keep the thing rolling. And so whenever you take out the E-hole cover, it's really important to make sure that your heavies stay alive. Don't kamikaze in the E-hole cover. try to keep your heavies healthy so that you'll have them right off the bat going to the next round. You get to keep your units from round to round, so that lets you go charging in right up the gut, and then the generator round, the cog team doesn't really have a chance to set up, and they're already facing a stacked Locust team, which should be able to just roll right into them. So that's the team makeup which I found to be most successful, and hopefully you guys found this video to be helpful and give you some ideas for how to organize your Locust team. I'll see you guys when the demo drops tomorrow. Thanks for watching and good luck.